I would say up front that the statement that the department has granted 27 waivers for work permits for churches is misleading. In my press conference of January 6th, I provided statistics for advertising of positions for the clergy for 2016 only. This information was taken from the job board. I also noted that in 2016, we received one waiver for that category of job, i.e. the clergy. In contrast, the applications in the PATI response dated back to as early as 2013. The information provided in the PATI request included all active applications submitted by churches for all job types, including 15 missionaries from the Church of Latter-day Saints, 2 musicians, and 7 positions that either were not required to be advertised or where there was an automatic exemption, such as a guest speaker and sound technicians for special events. There were a total of 6 clergy that applied for a waiver of advertising, and all 6 made proper application and paid the requisite fee. It has been alleged by MP Brown that I misled you. It is unfortunate that he did not review the attachment like I did. I stated that we received one waiver in 2016 for a member of the clergy. We determined subsequently that the specific application to which I referred was in fact received in 2015. However, there was only one application listed, the Emmanuel Methodist Church, for a minister of religion. That application, which was for a short-term permit, was approved administratively, i.e. by a technical officer, which is aligned with the normal process for short-term work permits. The other 5 work permits for the clergy went to the board. In my press conference of December 28th, I underscored the consideration respecting advertising policies that were put into effect in the new policies of 2014, and indicated that all positions must be advertised if they were offered to non-Bermudians. I also specifically pointed out my reference to Section 115 and Section 116 of the Work Permit Policy. I indicated that the policy, meaning the whole policy, applies to everyone, every individual, every company, every charity, every church. It is worth noting that every other denomination has complied with this requirement since the new policy was put in effect. I reiterate, the policy, meaning the entire policy of Section 115 and Section 116, applies to everyone. For clarity, I will read both policies in toto to hopefully alleviate what may be perceived as misinformation on my part to the public. 115, advertising criteria. Employers are required to advertise available positions prior to applying for short-term or standard work permits unless otherwise set out in this policy. The position must, at a minimum, be advertised 3 times over a period of 8 days in a local newspaper, as well as, at a minimum, 8 consecutive days on the government job board at www.bermudajobboard.bm. Each advertisement must include the following details: the title of the job being filled and the name, telephone number, and mailing address of the employer, the title of the job being filled, clearly specify the minimum standards of qualification and experience, a brief description of the job to be filled, which should be consistent with the normal functions associated with the job. An advertisement will be invalid if it contains a job description that appears to be tailor-made to fit a particular existing or potential work permit holder, and notice of the deadline of the application. The work permit application must be submitted within 3 months of the date on which the position was last advertised in either the newspaper or the job board, whichever had the longest run date. However, in cases where the length of the recruitment process does not permit the employer to submit an application within 3 months of the date that the position was last advertised, employers may pay the advertisement extension fee, which will permit them to submit the application within 6 months of the date on which the position was last advertised. Should any advertised details change prior to the expiry of 5 working days following the date of the last advertisement, the advertisement shall be invalid and the employer will be required to re-advertise the position. This is intended to allow sufficient time for Bermudians, spouses of Bermudians, and PRC holders to apply. Section 116, Waivers of Advertising. Upon request of the employer and upon payment of the requisite fee, the board or minister may waive the requirement to advertise a position where a short-term or standard work permit is being applied for. A waiver of advertising may be appropriate where the person is uniquely qualified for the position, or the position would not exist in Bermuda if it were not for the applicant filling the job, or the success of the business would be detrimentally affected if the person were to leave the business. Detrimentally affected means that jobs of Bermudians, spouses of Bermudians, or PRC holders would be put at risk, or the employee is an integral key and the employee is integral and key to income generation for the business by brokering deals or attracting or retaining clients or funds. Each request for a waiver of advertising will be decided upon by its merits. The decision of the board minister may be appealed to the minister according to section 1(4) upon payment of the requisite fee. Waivers are automatically granted in respect of the post of CEO or other chief officer, the post of resort hotel general manager at a hotel with greater than 175 beds, periodic, occasional, new business, global, and global entrepreneur work permits, and permits granted pursuant to sections 7(3), 7(4), or 7(13), subject to the restrictions listed. Where an employer demonstrates that it has Bermudians, spouses of Bermudians, or PRC holders training abroad to gain international experience with a plan upon completion of a specified period not exceeding 3 years to return to Bermuda, an employer may apply for an automatic waiver of advertising for the guest worker that fall outside of the aforementioned categories equal to the number of Bermudians, spouses of Bermudians, or PRC holders being trained abroad for the same length of time in similar positions of employment. Such proof shall include the identity of the selected Bermudians, spouses of Bermudians, or PRC holders training abroad, as well as their respective statements of employment, training program details, and company organizational chart. The department reserves the right to request further information regarding the training of Bermudians, spouses of Bermudians, or PRC holders. Specifically, with respect to today's response by the department to the PADI request, it appears from the newspaper article that the question was for all positions within the various churches. Notwithstanding that our press conference was in respect of a particular matter, the response to the PADI request and further investigation of those responses shows clearly that Policy 116 was fully adhered to, as all applications were made and fees were paid to request those waivers. The other matter that was under consideration and was the subject of the previous press conference did not comply with the policy within the prescribed time, but that matter is now sub judice, and I will make no further reference with respect thereto. I'll be happy to take questions.
Minister, I just have one question. You mentioned the United Methodist Church waiver, which was actually a 2015 application. But there's also one for priest in charge, Anglican Church, Smith Parish, which is 2016. I take your point that the analysis wasn't actually quite done by the Gazette, but would that not mean then there were actually two waivers? There was one in 2016, but you've actually referred to one that was actually in 2015. So,
I'm not sure that I'm
in
quite.
your statement, you initially mentioned the United Methodist Church.
Yes, there were 15, and I think it's important to point out that those are, they're not priests and pastors and people in that position. That's the reason why that was specifically referred to.
Okay, but the Anglican Church position, the parish priest in charge of Smith's Parish in the Anglican Church, that's actually a clergy position, isn't it?
My understanding, yes. And that was an application that had gone to the board and was approved in February of 2016.
Okay.
But they did pay for a waiver,
Right.
which is allowed by policy 116. They were granted the waiver, they paid the fee, and therefore were granted the permit.
And that was a one waiver in 2016. I just want to clear that.
Well, I would have to look at the specific dates, because there looks like, based on the report that came from, in response to the Patty request, in 18th of May of 2016, the priest in charge of St. George's Parish, the Anglican Church of Bermuda, that was in 2016.
Right.
There also was an ad waiver granted in accordance with permit 116, which means that they made the application, they paid for the application fee, requested a waiver, and it was granted.
Okay, so there were two waivers in 2016.
No, there was another.
Sorry?
The Centenary United
Right.
Methodist Church for clergy minister in 16th of March 2016. The ad waiver was granted in accordance with work permit policy of 116. And in 19th of October of 2016, a minister of religion for Emmanuel Methodist Church was also paid the money, requested a waiver, and it was granted in accordance with with the work permit policy 116. So that was in 2016.
Right, so there
Yes.
were three actual waivers in 2016. I just want to clarify the number. That's all. Anyone else?
It looks like 4.
4. Okay, 4.
Mm-hmm.
Comment. So we cannot talk about the other matter.
Mm-hmm.
There cannot be any questions with regard to the other matter.
Well, because that is sub judice, I think in fairness to the process, it's only fair for me to decline from from going down that route, because I think that we don't want to prejudice anything that might be further
Because-
investigated in that regard.
Because the reason that the actual story, in my opinion, came out by the Roy Gazette was in response to what was stated that by you and the Mr. A.M.T. Cool Simons that
Mhm.
there was a rule for all
Yes.
with regard to the other matter.
Okay.
But apparently that's not so.
No, that is so. Let me just speak generally that the rules apply to everybody. And the rule to which I referred was the policy that is included in section 116 with respect to waiver of advertising. I took the time to very carefully read the entire section 116 in my conference, in my comments earlier, and that is because we cannot take in isolation one word or one phrase. When I say that section 115 and section 116 were the operative sections for the purposes of the other matter, and I will just refer to it as that, it's the entire section 115 and the entire section 116.
So therefore, would it be fair to say that the grant of waivers in this case was done administratively and not by you as the minister, as was in the other matter?
That would be fair to say, in as much as they would not have come to me as being anything outside of the norm.
Right, okay. So you did not see these ALS?
I did not.
minister?
I
Okay.
did not.
So who made the determination that these people were uniquely qualified or that they should be given a waiver? Was it the chief immigration officer, or was it the board who made the
That information would have gone to the board.
So the board would have made the determination that the waivers should have been granted.
In these instances, and presumably because there was nothing that flagged the files for any particular reason.
Like somebody's name change.
Well, if
Anyone
you want to
else?
speak specifically to that matter, I will
can't
not.
talk- no, we
Okay,
can't.
okay, so we won't.
Anything else? Anyone else?
So just for further clarity,
Hmm.
are you done, Ms. Herbert?
Yeah.
So this is your second only question.
Your statement, when was it, in early this month, that there'd only be one waiver in 2016,
Right.
referred to under policy 1.16, is that correct? Is that
Under
what it-
policy 1.16,
Okay.
which basically allows for advertising or lack thereof, or application for a waiver with the payment of the requisite fee, which is part of 1.16, the
Okay.
policy,
All right,
the entire policy.
So that statement still stands?
That statement still stands.
All right.
So can I ask this, I'm sorry, that do you as the minister or does the government consider the position of missionary in the same light as the position of a pastor of a church?
No, I don't believe that it
Okay.
does. I don't believe they do.
Being they were granted waivers. All right. Thank you.
Is that
They
it?
were not, just to clarify, they were not likely to be taking positions of Bermudians, and I think that that's one of the things that was
Why
key
not?
in
That's
that,
off
in that
record.
particular instance.
We don't have one meeting.
No, I'm saying that the work that is being conducted by the members of the sorry, I got the name, Jesus Christ.
Church of the Latter-day
Church of the Latter-day Saints, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The work that they do has been part of a very long-standing policy where they rotate and they bring people in. That's a policy that's been in effect since long before my
So
time.
you don't see where Bermudians would want to do that type of work?
Oh, I'm not saying that they wouldn't want to. I'm just saying that there's plenty of room for spiritual growth for everybody.
So being it's been in place all of this time,
Mhm.
you kept it on the books.
I have kept it on the books. I've not had cause at this point in time to revisit it. If it needs to be revisited, then as I said in the last conference, that I'm happy to look at how we can facilitate religious growth and instruction. It is not our intent in the department to frustrate those efforts. We just want to make sure that we embrace all possibilities. And if there's something that needs to be looked at, I'm happy to look at it.